Okay, so this is all I know. It's all I know. It really is all I know. And so I started up at the top on the left, and I looked at all the performance managements. I looked at their employee survey data, the 360s, and they'll tell you everything. And all you have to do, instead of just doing a numerical evaluation, put a line on your employee survey that says, "I just like to say," and they'll tell you everything. They'll tell you who's neat, who's not, who you should get rid of, what you can do to improve. Now, don't do an employee survey if you really don't want to know the data, because it's very annoying to the employees if they share with you and then you ignore it. And so I looked at all that data. It was very easy, really, to be able to select the P&L leaders for around the world, for Europe, Asia Pacific, North and South America. And I put together a really simple matrix organization with engineering, manufacturing, procurement, legal, communications. And I just wrote a big working together across this simple matrix. And they didn't know what that meant. Okay, they had never been in a room together. They had different performance measures worldwide. And I was explaining to them about this working together. I mean, help each other, appreciate each other. I even introduced the love word. You could actually love them up. The sorry word, if you go after somebody in a meeting, just say you're sorry. Had never heard these words. So we start the business plan review, 2 hours every Thursday. We always start around 6 o'clock at a Dearborn, or 5:30 to hit the time zones around the world, from Australia to Asia to the States. And we finally get it down to about 2 hours, and I start out with the vision, the strategy, and the plan. Every leader presents their view of their plan and status to help our company plan. And then I introduced them to the color coding, and they just didn't know what to do with the color coding. Because if you had a red item, you didn't bring it up until you had a solution, which is the way it is in most companies, because they don't really share the whole plan, or the leaders can't really stand a red item because they think somehow that reflects on them, that it's a failure, as opposed to thinking about those red items as gems, because now you can actually manage the issues. So they're starting to work together. They're kind of respecting the behaviors, the way they treat each other. There's only one problem, is that all 300 charts were green. And so they knew now, for the first time, that we were going to lose $17 billion. So I stopped the meeting a couple of times and said, you know, and I know we're going to lose $17 billion. Is there anything, maybe just a couple little things are not going well? And you can't make them do it. I mean, and I'm starting to get a little anxious, because we are losing $17 billion and we're going to run out of money, and this 113-year-old fantastic company could be gone. And so, but I just had to trust the process. I know it works. So all green the next week, all green the next. And then I didn't know this until I read the American Icon book, that Mark, who was running North and South America, ran into an issue on an actuator on the lift gate of the new Ford Edge that was being produced in Oakville, Canada. And so he did what we agreed to, the finest quality, don't deliver it until it's perfect. So we stopped production, and that's a big deal. As you all know, in your businesses, when you stop production, and he had 10,000 edges sitting on the Tundra, and so he gets together the night before the business plan review, and up comes the launch chart, and we're usually launching 30 to 40 vehicles around the world. And the launch chart has a column for technical readiness, one for schedule compliance, and another column for financial impact. And so they're all green. And Mark says to the team, you know, I think that's one of those red things Alan's talking about. And literally, one of the vice presidents said to him, so Mark, you know, we don't share an issue with our leadership unless we have a solution. And he said, well, I think we ought to trust Alan, and we ought to color it red, because it is. And then another vice president said, well, Mark, it was really nice to know you, and good luck. These are two senior vice presidents talking. So Mark, they color it red, and the next day, so we start at 6:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're going through green chart, green chart, green chart. And all of a sudden, we get to Mark, and up comes this chart. It's red, red, and red. I mean, all of the air disappeared out of this room. And we're in the Thunderbird room on the 11th floor, the world headquarters, and we have a round table, and the monitors in between have all of the locations around the world, so everybody around the world is watching this one chart. And they're looking at Mark, and they're looking at me. And Mark said, we have this issue, we don't have a solution, but we're working on it. And so I start to clap. And you could see it in their eyes. There was a sign, the 2 doors behind were going to open up, 2 very large humans were going to come in, and they were going to extract Mark from the meeting. Well, the doors didn't open up, and I said to the team, I said, is there anything we can do to help Mark out right away? And Derek Kuzak, who was leading engineering worldwide at the time, said, we've seen that issue on such and such, we'll get that data over to you right away. Benny Fowler, who's leading quality, kind of said the same thing. And then Joe Hendricks, who was leading manufacturing, said, we're going to figure this out. You're going to need some manufacturing engineers in Oakville. I'll get them identified, and I'll get them sent up to Oakville right away. And they'll be ready to switch out the parts. So that took about 8 or 9 seconds. Then we went on to the next screen chart and next screen chart. And then the next week, Mark's the only red chart again. And they're looking at Mark, and they're looking at me, and Mark's still there. So I noticed they're all looking at Mark. So I asked Mark during the next week, I said, Mark, why don't you sit next to me next week? And so Mark's going, this is not public. Publicly, I'm going to be let go. And so he moves over next to me, start the meeting. He's the only red chart. Now the team is really confused. Mark's still there. He still is red, and he's getting closer to the CEO. And so a couple weeks later, it turns to yellow. They have a solution. A couple weeks later, it turns to green, and all the vehicles start flowing around the world. What do you think the 300 charts, the colors look like the following week? A lot of red. Somebody said all red. That's a pretty good guess, since you're going to lose $17 billion. But the other thing about working together is you want to know all the things are going well too, all the greens and the yellows. And so it just turned into a rainbow that following week. And at that moment, I knew that no matter what happened to us, we were going to be okay. And because we were going to use this working together, and we're all going to know what the situation was, we're going to know what the plan is, we're going to know the status, we're going to include everybody, and we're going to work on the reds, the yellows, the greens, and we're going to celebrate those reds. So it worked through saving Ford. We went from a $17 billion loss to, we got all the way back to, I remember the first quarter of 2008, and we had a $100 million profit. We were so excited. Then the financial crisis hit. GM and Chrysler went into bankruptcy, and the United States almost went into a recession that was worse than the Depression in 1929. And we used our working together process, actually had our business plan reviews every week to look at all the things that were going on and tweak up our strategy and our plan. And so I think kind of the rest of the story, that we restructured Ford at that time to match our production to real demand. We sold Aston Martin, Jaguar, Land Rover, Volvo. We also committed to a complete family of vehicles, from the Fiesta, the Focus, the Fusion, the Taurus, the Mustang, the Escape, the Edge, the Flex, the Explorer, the Expedition, the new Ranger, and the F-Series, and the E-Series, and the Transit, and the Cargo. And that set of vehicles now supports all of the markets around the world in every size vehicle, and most of the third-party analysts believe it's the finest lineup of any automobile company worldwide. We also, looking at it from all the stakeholders' point of view, we have been increasing market share every year. We reverse that trend. We also have the number 1, number 3, number 6 vehicles in the world. And then looking at it from the banker's point of view, we actually borrowed $23.5 billion to finance this plan. And our competitors even called me up and said, you're not going to be able to pay the payments on this loan. So we financed the restructuring, but we also invested in all these new products during the worst of times through the recession. And so we repaid our $23.5 billion, and the bankers love that because they really don't want your assets. They just want you to be wildly successful. And when you look at it from the supplier point of view, all the suppliers around the world have now ranked Boeing at the top of the automobile companies that they want to work with because of our working together. And when you look at the investor point of view, our intraday low stock price was $1.01, and it's appreciated now approximately 1,837%. So a lot of people really appreciated the value creation of Ford. But maybe the stakeholder that I'm just absolutely in awe, and I feel so good about what working together means to them, are the employees of Ford. And we all, back to the employee survey, we all do the employee surveys, and you all know this, but on all the employee surveys, they'll summarize how everybody feels by asking one composite question. It'll have to do with your company, what your company does, the value it creates, what the employees feel. Do they feel appreciated? Are they contributing? Are they being appreciated? And the percent positive that the employees respond to that question, and it's both small companies, large companies, or medium-sized companies, large companies, United States, worldwide, the percent positive is 40%. That means that 60% of all the employees that are going to work are going there for a salary, but not to build a cathedral. I propose to us that it's the biggest source of wealth creation is our employees and working together and how they feel about our company and their contribution and how they're treated. When you look at it, employee engagement, it's down around 25 to 30%. So you can imagine what an opportunity each of us has in our businesses to create an environment where people know what the compelling vision is and what the strategy is for achieving it, and they know what the plan is, and they know what the status is, and they're working together. When I left Ford, that percent positive was 91%. And I don't know of another company, small or medium or larger, that high. So this working together, it really works. Okay, so I feel like I'm at a board meeting again, and my board's all here. So that's my report to the committee and the board. So the last thing I think I'd like to share with you is that I'm really glad that Will and the team invited me. I've looked at all the videos from the past events, and they're incredible. And it's all about leadership and entrepreneurs, and especially in the field of us serving. And I had a chance to go to that Nomad restaurant last night with 3 of the kids in New York, and wow, was it way cool service and fantastic food. So I thank Will again for inviting me, and I wish you the very best on your leadership journey in creating environments where people are actually creating products and services that people want and they value it, and you're improving your quality and your productivity every year, and you're having so much fun. So thank you very much.